Hey guys, welcome to my channel. In this tutorial, I will show you how to make one of my best sellers. This bomber jacket is relatively easy to make. It will also fit a beginner since the pattern is easy to understand and make this jacket. For beginners, I would recommend to skip the pocket part. And as always, you can find the link to this pattern in the description box. And here is the information on how to print and how to put together the pattern. This information is of course also in the instructions. So I start with cutting out the pattern, and as you can see, I place the pattern on the face of the fabric since I'm using the brushed French terry fabric. And here we have the body and the sleeve pieces, and the cuffs, the waistband, and the collar. And here are the small pocket parts. I'm also using fusible stay tape and glue trim. This is optional, but I would recommend you to do this. And this is what I need the glue trim for. I take detail 10, the pocket frame, fold it in half, and then press. This way it will make it easier for you when you will sew on that pocket frame. And here I take the pockets, all of the 4 pieces, and put the fusible stay tape. Here is the front piece. I put it wrong side up and trace the pocket opening. And now I put some fusible stay tape over that pocket opening. And as you noticed in the beginning, I always prepare my pieces. So right here, I'm putting together detail 5 and detail 6, the waistband. I will sew those details together and then also press it. So I have all of my details ready before they are assembled together. And this is the cuffs. I also fold them in the middle and then pin them together. And this should be, of course, done from the wrong side. So serge together the sides of the cuff. And now also serge the waistband details. And here I'm folding that waistband in the middle and then sewing together that edge. And I'm using a sewing machine, but you can also serge that edge. To me, it is easier to do it on the sewing machine, so the seam allowance will be smaller. And this is why I use the sewing machine, so I can cut down that seam allowance at the corner, and then here I'm just cutting down one of the seam allowance sides. Just turn it right side out. You can also help yourself to put out that corner. And now just press the waistband. When you fold the cuffs, put the seam allowance towards opposite sides. This way, it will make it easier for you to press it. And here I'm pressing also the collar. So this is done from the right side of the fabric. And now the cuffs, the waistband and the collar are done. And here are pocket frame details again. So I'm drawing a line at 1.5 millimeters from the edge and also 1 centimeter from the corners. And I'm doing also a line at 1 centimeter from the edge at the pockets, and this is the big pocket pieces. And now take one of the front pieces, put it right side up, and then take detail 8 and place it where that pocket opening is. And here is also detail 10. So I start with detail 10 and I will hand sew that detail at that line. So the seam allowance of detail 10 and detail 8 need to face the inside of the pocket. And now sew on detail 8 on the opposite side of the pocket opening. It is important that the start and the end of your lines are aligned. And now make a straight stitch on that line and be careful so your start point and the end point are at the same level. And now repeat the same step on the other side. And now you can remove that hand stitching that you made. So right here, I'm drawing a line in the middle of that pocket opening. And then I'm also drawing small lines at the ends to the sides, because we will cut that opening, so you have to have those edges at the ends. And be careful here, you need to go as near as possible to that stitch, but do not cut that stitch. And now you can turn those details inside. Start with the pocket and then the pocket frame. And don't forget to press before going to the next step. So now I will add detail 9, the small pocket piece, and I will add it to the pocket frame's seam allowance. Just pin them together, then go to the sewing machine and make a straight stitch and go as near as possible to that original stitch. The next step is to serge those sides of the pocket, but before we can do that, I would recommend you to cut down that seam allowance, and this is the frame seam allowance that I'm cutting down. So now serge both of the pocket sides. And now we can close that pocket by sewing those edges to the seam allowance. So I'm using a straight stitch and I go 2 or 3 times back and forth. And the last step for the pockets are to sew together those pocket pieces. So just pin them together and serge them together. And while I'm on the serger, I will serge the center of the front piece. And now just press the pockets and the center of the front piece. Since we will fold that edge, make a straight stitch at 5 centimeters from the edge, and then go to your pressing board, fold that edge and press. And now the front pieces are done, so we can put together both of the body pieces. So put the back piece face up and then put the front pieces over it, face towards face, and then pin them together at the shoulders. Serge the pieces together at the shoulder. And now press that seam allowance and put the seam allowance towards the back. Now we can install the sleeve. So I always start with pinning the center of the sleeve with the shoulder and then continue to the sides. And now serge together the details. and press that seam, putting the seam allowance towards the body, not the sleeve. And now we can finally put together the pieces on the sides. So pin together, starting from the armpit, and then go to the sleeve and to the side. And now you can search the sides. I got a lot of questions about why the seam allowance is so small for this design, but this is the main reason. Since we are serging everything, if I put the seam allowance to 1 centimeter, the details will be bigger because the seam allowance seam is about 5 to 6 millimeters. And before we can put together the waistband to the body, I'm making a mark at 5 millimeters from the edge, from the center front edge, and then a mark in the center back. And then I'm putting together both marks on the back and the front. This way I will get another mark in the middle. And repeat this for the other side also. And now I'm repeating the same step for the waistband. I'm folding it together, finding the center, make a mark, and then putting together both marks and make another mark in the middle. So this way we have 5 points where we need to put together the waistband with the body. And since I'm on it, I will do the same for the cuffs. I will do 3 marks on the cuffs. So in total we have 4 points where we will put together the cuff to the sleeve on. And then I will also make the marks on the on the collar. So fold it in the middle, make a mark, and then fold it again. Now you can pin together the waistband with the body on those marks that we just did. So center together with the center, and then those other marks also. So you can see here the starting point here is 5 centimeters from the edge. This have been a difficulty for many to understand. You need to leave that centimeters unpinned because this side we will fold in later. And now we will search together the details. While you will make the stitch, you need to pull a little bit on the waistband where you have the ribbed fabric, so it will fit the amount of fabric on the body. So here you can see I'm pulling a little bit on the waistband. And now you have to put the waistband inside and then fold that edge at the front and then pin it and make a straight stitch. So using a sewing machine, I'm just making a straight stitch and go as close as you can to the original serging stitch. And now just turn that edge right side out, and here you have it, the folded edge. And now we will repeat the same steps for the collar as we just did for the waistband. So make a mark at 5 centimeters from the edge, and then in the center, fold it and make a mark. And now pin together the collar and the body on those marks. And sew them together using a serger, and don't forget to pull on the ribbed fabric so it will align the length with the line with the body length. And now repeat the same step as we did for the waistband. Put that collar inside, fold in that edge and make a straight stitch on the sewing machine. In the instructions, I also added a top stitch all around those corners at the front and the collar, but I chose not to do it for this design. If you want to do it, just make a straight stitch at 5 millimeters from the edges and from the collar. And now the last thing that we need to do is to sew together the sleeve with the cuff. So fold that sleeve in half, make a mark, and then fold it again and make 2 marks. And now put that sleeve inside the cuff and pin together the sleeve and the cuff on the marks. And don't forget to pull on the cuff while making this stitch. And since we can't just cut down those threads, I will put them inside that seam. So using a needle, just putting inside those threads, and then I can cut them down. And the next part, I'm just showing you on what I do for my buttons, but I can't give you clear instructions for buttons because you have to check the instructions of the buttons of your choice because they most likely are different. You can add as many buttons as you want. I'm adding 5, 3 on the body and 2 on the waistband. And here I'm starting the installation process. But remember, it might be different for your buttons. And this is how the finished product look like. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching and bye.